KJ, tell me what you think. Who do you like? Why do you like them? And what do you expect to see in it?
So, I'll start out. We'll do the East first. So
Okay.
my team obviously didn't make the full playoffs. We're in the play-in, Miami. We're playing the AC at Atlanta. I I think we could take care of them. We took care of them last year in the playoffs. It's one game. We've been playing very good down the stretch. Like even if we lose, I've been watching the games and we've been playing pretty good. You know, if Udonis Haslam gives us another 24, we're winning every game. So, but with that said, I got Miami going on to play Boston, and then the Atlanta, and then the 9-10 seed. I don't know. The Bulls have been real hot the last month. The last month of the regular season. So I got them beating Toronto, and then I got them beating Atlanta for the 8th seed. I've never really believed in Atlanta, even when they were when they made it to the Eastern Conference Finals. Nobody believed that they were gonna win. Trae Young, he's just too. I don't know how to explain it. I feel like he puts up a lot of empty stats. Because I remember last year, like even though Embiid had the points per game locked up leader, Trae Young had the most points because he played more games than Embiid. He had the most total points and he had the most total assists. But what has it led to? It has led to a 41-41 record. And just like I said last week, they are the most mid team in the whole league right now. I've never really liked their situation between. What were you say?
But also, you gotta know, like, you can't, like the Hawks. You know, they can get hot at any time. And
True.
remember, we were talking about that stat you guys were talking about last time about them winning one game, losing one game, and not having higher than a 2-game winning streak. And look at them now, right now on a 3-game winning streak. If you think about it, I believe.
That just means they're on track to lose.
I'm not sure.
I'll check it out. But yeah. like I said, I've never been very confident in that Trae Young, John Collins duo, and then they added a non-shooter in DeJounte. So now you got 2 ball handlers, one that can't really shoot, and one that can't get to the bucket. Yeah, together they would be the best point guard in the league. But there's 2 separate players. That means you have one less shooter on the floor. I don't know about their injury status. Do you know if anybody's injured for them?
The way I look at it, I'm not too sure. I don't believe so. I think they have everybody coming. Huh?
They're fine. They're healthy.
Yeah. They're healthy. So that's another thing that scares me about them because that Hunter kid is good. Not the kid from Sacramento.
Yeah, DeAndre Hunter.
But the other one.
Yeah.
Remember, they play defense. If they can hold your team down too, they don't need to score. So that's why I'm letting you know. You know, we can't sleep on the Hawks. But you do have good points about not trusting them. But at the same time, that coach is brand new, barely coming in this year and doing what he's doing. That is very impressive. You guys know what I'm talking about. I'm talking about Dan Snyder.
Quinn Snyder?
Oh, Quinn, yeah. Sorry. It's his first year coaching that team.
And he came in like halfway through the year.
Halfway through the season.
But they got essentially the same record they had with Nate McMillan.
That's literally what I was going to say, KJ. It hasn't been that impressive. He's literally like you said, it's basically he just took over for Nate basically, and they've been 500 basically since, except for the last couple games.
But look what Nate did in that little span that he had. How do we know that what's the name can't do this for them? Snyder can't do this for them.
So I'm looking at it. It's everybody in their starting lineup right now is injured, but that's probably just so that they didn't get fined or anything for not playing the last game. It says he will not play. Trae Young didn't play against the Celtics because of groin soreness, left ankle soreness for DeJounte, lower back tightness for John Collins. So yeah, we can't go off injuries on ESPN because they're just being reported to as false.
The NBA for week 7, the NBA has almost turned into NFL's week 17. You know, now it's week 18, obviously.
Yeah.
teams sat out their players. Not even just the last game, last 2 games. So yeah, if you look at
Well,
the box
yeah.
score,
I remember last year, didn't Obi Toppin have like a 40-point game? And then like today or yesterday, that kid that was playing, that got drafted by Memphis, he was in the D League all year. And then he comes in and plays, they signed him to a 4-year, $7 million deal. And he comes in on that last game against OKC and drops 42 and 14.
Yeah.
And it's just like, okay, well, that's his season averages because he only played 1 game. He averages 42 points and 14 rebounds.
True. But like I said, I like what you're saying. You sounding right. Who did you end up picking? Oh, you said
so Miami plays Boston, and then the Bulls play Milwaukee.
Okay, I like that. Do you feel like any of those 2 teams can do something against that 1 or 2 seed?
I think that Miami can, just because we've played Boston so many times. We played them in the last 3 years. We played against them in 2 conference finals, and then 2021 we got eliminated by the Bucks. But yeah, we've played them. We know their schemes. I know Jaylen Brown was out with an actual injury the last week or so. But I mean, we'll see. I feel like, yeah, like I said, we've played them so many times, and I feel like Boston is one of those teams where their bench depth, they really only have like Marcus. They don't really have very many scorers like a lot of these other teams. Like, yeah, you got Derek White, but he like starts half the time. But we can actually play Duncan Robinson in this kind of series because there's not too many people that he will be so bad defensively that you can't play him.
That's like you said, that's good. Okay then. So thank you. What's up, Amos? So how do you feel about this playing in the East? Let me know. Just like I asked KJ, we have the Heat against the Hawks. That's the 7th and 8th seed, and then we got the Bulls against the Raptors. Let me know. Let me know your thoughts.
Yeah, so I'll go with the latter one first. The Bulls versus the Raptors. I'm not too interested in that series, admittedly, because I just don't see any of those 2 teams being able to go too far. The Raptors, they don't have a lot of top heavy talent, though they do have a lot of young talent. As far as, excuse me 1 second. Oh my gosh. So as far as the Raptors go, like I said, I think they've been kind of hovering around 500 for most of the year. Efren, I know you're a big Bulls guy, obviously, and I think for a while it looked like the Bulls weren't even going to make it, and I know they've dealt with a lot of injuries as well. But if I had to go off of that series alone, you know what? I think I'm gonna have to go with the Raptors. I'm gonna go ahead and take that home court advantage over over the Bulls having to play on the road. As you guys both know, Toronto is a really hard place to play at, especially having all in Canada. And then I just think Toronto's depth is going to give the Bulls problems. I just think they have the defensive talent, they have the wings to be able to give DeMar some issues. I know Levine's going to have to score a lot as well, but I just think that their wings can defend them pretty decently. So I just like the Raptors in that one game. If we transfer over to the Heat versus the Hawks, that's actually the series I'm a little more excited for. Trae Young, he's a dynamic guard. Before Shea really broke out this year, people were talking about Trae being kind of that next guy, and KD kind of brought it up. This is the 2nd year in a row where he's led the league in assists. And I want to say 4 years in a row now, he's been top 4 at least. So from an assist standpoint, he's lights out. He's always going to get his guys involved. And from a scoring standpoint, I know KJ says sometimes his stats can be a little empty, but he can stroke it. And in the playoffs, what you need people that can shoot. The half court opens up in the playoffs. And so teams that can shoot, you can't just go ahead and sit paint. You can't literally shade off someone, because if they can shoot, you have to be a little closer. And so now all of a sudden it makes that paint a lot more open because all the defenders are closely to their guys, and so we get that DeJounte Murray. He's not a lights out shooter, but he's last couple of years though he's been around. I want to say league average, and so I'm not too worried about DeJounte.
Do you think that because we played him last year and we shut down Trae Young? Do you think that DeJounte helps create more space for Trae Young to actually do something this year?
I do because last year Trae Young was having to have the ball in his hands a lot more. Now when you have someone like DeJounte, he's a phenomenal ISO player, not necessarily from the outside. You alluded to this. He's that guy that's going to be able to drive, kick it, but he can get in the paint very well. And so because he can have the ball in his hands now, you can have someone like Trae Young kind of have more of that Steph role, ideally, as far as, okay, off ball, let's go ahead and have him wrap around screens. Let's go ahead and get him to the box and then flare out now to the corner, flare out to the wing, and do a lot more catch and shoot shots. And so the defense is going to be a lot less focused on Trae because you have someone like DeJounte Murray who you didn't have last year. And so I think in the playoffs time, especially having two ball dominant guards, it can actually help because, again, a lot of times people don't want the ball in just their hands in a tight game, in a tight situation. So I actually think having DeJounte is going to help out a lot more. This whole season, as we've kind of touched on, it's been kind of a struggle for the Hawks. They've been kind of trying to figure themselves out. It seemed like it took them a while to adapt with those two guys. Just having John Collins, man, excuse me, guys. Give me 1 second. Getting a phone call. So John Collins, he wasn't that ideal second option. He's never been. And there's been some issues with him and Trae Young in the past. And so now you get someone like DeJounte, and he's kind of Trae Young's secondary scorer. And so at the end of the day, I think Trae Young, he as he's shown before, he has the capabilities of carrying talent, carrying his whole roster, getting that upset in the playoffs because he's done it before. And the team that you're going against is a team that's kind of struggled this year. With that said, though, between those two, the Heat and the Hawks, I'm actually going to go with the Heat. I like the Heat's experience more. They've done it before. Jimmy Butler, he's a dog, and he really is a dog in the playoffs. And so I just like the Heat's experience. I like the Heat's shooting more. Again, Trae Young's a dog. Having DeJounte Murray allows him to be off ball more, and so I don't think they're going to struggle as much shooting. But the Heat are just a better shooting team, regardless. And so you talk about the Heat's defensive team. I mean, you talk about Bam, you talk about Jimmy Butler, right? That's arguably the best wing defender in the league. That's arguably the best defending big in the league. So give me the Heat, give me their experience, give me their playoff experience over the Hawks, who, as we touched on earlier, just now started winning a few games in a row, right? So they've been that definition of 500 team. So despite me really liking Trae Young, I'm gonna have to go with the Heat over the Hawks in that series. And then, like I said earlier, my earlier series, go ahead and give me the Raptors. Give me the Raptors over Chicago.
Okay, what about
Atlanta versus Raptors?
And the Raptors and the Hawks.
It was the Raptors versus.
No. So if the Raptors win, then they would play the Hawks for the 8th seed. Who would you have?
Gotcha. So yep. So then if the Raptors win and we have the Heat win, right?
Yeah.
So would those be two? What would be the match then?
The Raptors versus the Hawks.
Raptors versus the Hawks. Okay, so then the Raptors versus the Hawks. I'm gonna go with the Hawks, and I think it would just kind of fit in with their whole season. They've now won a few games in a row. They then lose, and you think it's over now for them. Well, wait, they still have one more game, and so I'm taking Trae Young in a clutch performance. I'm taking him as an individual player over anybody the Raptors have, and I think he's just capable of being in that Game 7 situation of winning versus a team like the Raptors, who I'm not very high on. As well as the Hawks would have home court, right? They would have that home court. The Raptors. So I like the Hawks in that matchup to then get to the actual playoffs. Then, so give me the Hawks.
Okay, just like I asked KJ, do you think any of the 7th seeds for the Heat will play against Boston, of course, and the Hawks will play against the
Milwaukee.
Bucks. Do you think any of those two teams have a chance to do anything surprising against the number 1, 2 seed in the East?
No, I don't. And it's really just because I have such high faith in the Celtics. We had kind of touched off air about the whole Celtics and Heat, and they've had some good battles, you know. And I know they have Jimmy Butler, they have Bam. But I just think overall, the Celtics have been just so more consistent this year. They have more depth, they have better defense, and I just think they have more scoring. And it's always just really tough playing in Boston, you know. You're not going to necessarily get the calls in Boston. No one really does. So I would take the Celtics certainly over them. And then the Bucks are just a championship level team.
Okay.
And I just don't think Trae Young and DeJounte Murray, you know, I don't think they have enough help to beat a team like the Bucks, who are just championship level everywhere you look, you know, whether it's their guards, whether it's their bigs, whether it's their wings, they have experience, they have defense, they have bigs that can shoot, they have bigs that can defend, they have guards that can shoot, they have guards that can defend. So I wouldn't bet on any of those two teams pulling an upset, and I certainly wouldn't tell my buddies to bet on them as well. That's my East predictions. I don't really see any sleepers coming out the East because, like I said, it's just so much more top heavy in the East as far as the Sixers, as far as the Celtics, and as far as the Bucks. But certainly the Bucks and the Celtics, I just have such high respect for.
What about you, Efren? What you think?
So I said it's my turn. So for the 7th and 8th seed, Hawks and Miami, you know, I've been trying to pay a lot of attention to both those teams, and I just feel like it's an up for grab games. I ain't gonna lie to you. That game right there, both of these, I believe both teams match up well. I believe, you guys have I believe that the Heat have the better center, but I believe that the Hawks have a better guard play than the Heat. The inconsistency that you guys talk about the Hawks, I think that's what's gonna hurt them. Like you guys said, the Heat too. I really haven't heard nothing about the Heat this year. And that's kind of, how do I say, kind of good and not good. Why I say good is because when nobody's thinking that you're gonna come in to the playoffs and you're gonna do something, then that relieves something off your shoulders. And I know how Jimmy Buckets plays. He used to play for the Bulls. He used to do a lot for us. Bam can go out there, average whatever he has to average. If Tyler Harrell comes off, I don't know if he's coming off the bench or he's starting, but if he has good games,
he starts.
Man, you know, what can he do? Do you guys still have Duncan or is he hurt?
We got Duncan Robinson.
Yeah.
We got him. He just doesn't play because he's very inefficient defensively. Like he's a bad matchup.
But the thing is, against the Hawks, I feel you guys are going to need a little bit more scoring. You understand what I'm saying?
Well, I mean, we still got what's his name, Max Strus, who's a really good 3-point shooter, and he's a pretty good defender.
And like I said, I understand the defense wise, but Duncan can actually turn it up in a playoff game for you guys if you guys need him. That's why I'm like, okay. But I feel like the Heat will take that first game between the Hawks and the Heat. So I'll give the 7th seed to the Heat. The now going to the 9th and 10th seed. I'm a big Bulls fan. You guys know this. I know what we need. We need our point guard. We've missed LaMelo. Lonzo, sorry. We've missed Lonzo.
You don't even know your point guard.
I love you, man. We all know you're the biggest Chicago Bulls fan out here. But every week, you have LaMelo Ball as your point guard.
I know, because I want him too. I want both the Ball.
I know you want him. We all want LaMelo. We all want LaMelo, man. Sorry, I can go ahead, Efren.
Lonzo. Lonzo's when he played, he made our offense spread out. He did a lot. He can play defense, Right now, we don't have a point guard. Even with Beverly, yeah, he's our defensive point guard, but he plays ruthless sometimes, and it's good and bad. Caruso, good and bad too.
Well, none of them are good shooters. Like
Yes.
even Ayo Dosumo, he's not that great of a shooter.
And that's what kills us.
Yeah.
But also they're not great ball handlers too.
Yeah.
All three of them are not great ball handlers. You got to know that too. If you actually think about it, I'm scared to play against the Raptors, but I think we can beat them. I think we can beat the Raptors, even though people are probably like, "Oh, I don't know." I think we can beat the Raptors just because I feel like the Raptors, like Amos said, I don't think there's a lot of debt in the Raptors right now. I think you said there was a lot of debt, right, Amos?
No, you said they're not very top heavy.
They're not
exactly.
top. And I feel like the Bulls can expose them in some way that if Vucevic comes back, which I'm believing he is, we can use him and he can dominate those guys at the bottom too. Now, if they win that, it's gonna be hard for the Bulls to beat another team on the road. Not back to back nights, but then they gotta go against the Hawks.
Yeah.
But like you guys said, remember 3-game winning streak that they're on right now. How do you know that they don't lose 2 in a row? The Hawks. We don't know. So I might go with that and take the Bulls to get that 8 seed. I know a Bulls fan. I feel like we can get that 8 seed and make it that way. We have the talent. I know we have the talent. We have the players, but it's just we're inconsistent on our defense. We can have a big lead and give it up like nothing. Our coach got to get a little bit smarter on how to use our players. But that was my prediction. So I have the Bulls and the Heat 7th and 8th seeds.
Do you see Miami going far? The Bulls going far?
I see the Bulls honestly playing very physical against Milwaukee. And what I mean by physical is they don't like each other. We all know that.
Yeah.
They don't like each other.
Especially Grayson Allen and DeRozan.
Yeah. And you know how the Bulls play when it's if they can do something. I believe we have the talent to do something against Milwaukee. It's just we don't have the big men that they have. You understand what I'm saying? Yeah. They have 3 big men that they can kill us with. But the thing is, how do we? Well, but the thing is, we got to have our big men play big, and that's the thing. But I don't think we can. We can probably win 1 game or 2 against Milwaukee, but I don't see us doing anything.
Well, and for the Bulls, if they were to go, you would really need your point guard to be able to pull Drew Holiday off of Zach LaVine or DeRozan, wherever he's guarding. And I think, like you said, Vooch needs to play like he did against AD that game before he went out. Yeah. And then you need your point guard to be able to at least hit some threes so that it pulls Drew Holiday off Zach LaVine so he can get a fresh breath of air and get to the rack to get started.
Very true.
Well, and let me jump into and tell you why it's such a bad matchup for the Bulls. So with the Bulls not being healthy at all to that point, if you're the Milwaukee Bucks, you don't have like KJ said, Drew Holiday doesn't even really have to be guarding the point guard because they're not worried about the point guard from Bulls scoring at all, and we're talking about the NBA. You have to have a pretty legit point guard that can score, and the Bulls, because of the injuries, right, their point guard situation is just so bottom tier right now. And then on top of that, think about Giannis. Who is Giannis going to be killing himself on defense versus the Bulls? He doesn't really have to have that tough matchup at all, so he's going to be energized.
But you got to remember that too. We do got Andre Drummond still. I know if he can give us a good couple of minutes. Andre Drummond has been playing. If you actually
has been playing pretty good.
He's been playing pretty good.
But I think Brook Lopez is big enough to bang with him down low.
I'm
just saying. You're bringing up Drummond, but I'm talking about Giannis. Giannis isn't going to be sticking Drummond anyway. So that I'm just saying Giannis.
He'd probably be on DeRozan.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying though. KJ, think about this. The Bucks have Giannis, they have Middleton, and they have Drew Holiday to throw at the Bulls' two best guys. Whereas the
Well,
Bulls, because
Middleton's not that great defensively. I think Grayson Allen would be a better defender to throw on like a Levine or a because Middleton's more of just a straight scorer. He's not a liability, but he's not someone you put on their best players.
but in KJ, but I hear you. But in playoffs, you always pick it up. People that play social defense, if you're an average defender, you pick it up in playoffs. And so Middleton isn't below average at all. In fact, he's always probably been above average as a defender, and will come playoff time, which they'll be in. I see he's going to pick it up. At the end of the day, he's not their main defender though. So if he's your third or fourth best defender, you're saying my point for me. You know, the Bucks have it's basically just a really bad matchup for the Bulls, especially with the Bulls injury situation. I mean, they might be able to steal one game, but I don't see them stealing more than one game personally.
Yeah,
Like I said, we'll be able to see later on. You know, I don't think they can win the
Yeah.
series, but if they surprise us, you never know. You know, anything can happen. Anything can happen when you're the number one seed. Look what happened when Derrick Rose went out. What happens if Giannis gets hurt? Do you think that team will survive without Giannis if Giannis gets hurt? You know, we don't know that.
I think they. Well, I guess it's been 2 years, but I mean, even against Atlanta in that Eastern Conference Finals, they won 2 games without Giannis.
Yeah.
But what do you think about Miami Celtics?
So then the Miami versus Celtic game, Celtics have been picking it up the last couple of weeks. But I just don't know if they have that mindset. I just feel like the Heat always play them good. The Heat, if Jimmy buckets and that whole team can find a way to score with them, they're gonna have a good series. But I gotta go with Amos on this one, KJ. I just feel like the experience of.
Hey, I understand.
I gotta go with Amos on this one, even though they haven't been playing good and stuff like that. It's the Celtics, and they have the depth on their bench.
Do you think it could go to 7?
I think it can go to 7. I believe it can go to 7. That's one game I do, but that's one series now that I've been telling. Remember, Boston has not guaranteed me a whole lot of things this whole year, especially when they went on that bad stretch. And the Heat know how to play them. The Heat know how to play Boston, and we've noticed it. The coach, he's pretty much doing the same thing, and that coach for Boston right now, he's inexperienced. Let's be real.
Well, and that was another thing. Like people have said that the defense hasn't been as good without Ime, and I feel like that would make the difference for us. Because the thing with us last year is we couldn't score. Like we would go every game, and there'd be at least one quarter where we just got outscored by a lot.
But that's the thing too with you guys this year. You guys scored against certain teams, but there was a point in time that you got in 2 games, you guys scored 92 points.
That's true. I was trying to look it up because they had it on the NBA app, but I think because of the playoffs, they took it off.
You know, that's pretty scary because if Boston gets scoring, there's no way you're stopping them. They can average 130 points like nothing, right or wrong. So
yeah,
so that's the East Coast for us right now. The Eastern Conference people, let us know your comments. Subscribe to us. Let us know your comments. Let us know what you think about the Eastern Conference.